Sweet.
Hello to anyone that's watching the live stream. This is Chris.
Hello.
We're just doing our live podcast, so we're going to record as live. So I'm going to launch into the intro in 2 seconds, but I'll try and keep an eye on the live stream as well. So if you have any comments or questions as we're talking, please just drop them in the comments, and I will attempt to get to them. So thank you very much for watching. Hello and welcome to the Behind the Scenes Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Guy Cocker, and welcome to the show that pulls back the curtain of the tech industry, talking to its movers and shakers and bringing you a weekly fix of news, gossip and anything else that we can fit into an hour. My guest on this second show is one of my personal favourite UK YouTubers. He started his career at What Laptop Magazine, T3 and Tech Radar over at Future Publishing, and then worked for Mobile Choice and was the editor of website Recombu, and more recently has launched the YouTube tech channel Spurt, which now has 221,000 subscribers. His name is Chris Barraclough. Chris, welcome very much to the show.
Thank you for having me, Guy.
So anyone that's watching on our live stream, please join me next time on YouTube, and we're live now as we record. This is my front room. Chris has been very kind enough to come over and join me in Croydon for the glamour.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks very much. So for people that don't know you, you've got this channel that's called Spurt. It's important to get the naming right on this. It's Tech and then Spurt.
And then Spurt.
And then Spurt.
Right. Spurt.
Which I think is emblematic of kind of the sense of humour that I like about your channel. I know we were in the pub a couple of weeks ago and I was telling you it's sort of, you get that feeling that it's a British sense of humour that I really like.
Yes, I kind of, that's what I thought I'd go for, because there are an abundance, obviously, of tech channels on YouTube, so many. But the vast majority are sort of US based, and the vast majority are sort of, they are not dour or anything, but they are quite serious. They take a very straight-edged approach to it all. So I thought, because there's not that many British channels, maybe sort of bring a bit of sort of a British sort of sense of humour to it all. And it's a bit of fun with it, because, smartphones and everything, I love tech, but it can be very, very dull if it's just presented in a very straightforward fashion, just listing off specs or whatever. So, try and have a bit of fun with it, make it entertaining as well as informative, I guess.
Yeah, and sort of the thing that I have noticed from watching a lot of YouTube is that you do get a lot of American ones that are incredibly polished. Not to say that your videos aren't polished, but it's just that sort of, you'll make a silly cutaway gag, or you'll sort of have something that's ridiculous or funny, and I kind of like that about your videos. So
thank you.
Tell us about the process, because we were just talking ahead of going live that you try and knock out, or use a different phrase, I think.
Yeah, slightly different phrase.
Knock out a video a day, which must be quite challenging. It must be a constant flow of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, luckily in the tech world, it's moving so fast. There's so much stuff coming out now, especially now a lot of the Chinese brands like Oppo, Xiaomi, things like that are getting big in the UK and Europe. There's lots of tech to cover, and luckily, you can do something like an unboxing video fairly straightforward. It's just generally a sort of a one-take thing, pull it out of the box, and then just take the users on a tour of it all, show off the different features and everything, something like that, and be very straightforward. You don't need to script it or anything. Editing's very straightforward. Just cut out the bits where I swear and fall over a bit or whatever. So something like that's easy enough. Reviews obviously take a bit longer, but I find it's great to get something up every day, and then the viewers know what to expect. They know there's going to be something going live, and it's just good to keep that sort of flow going, I guess.
And so you're doing this mainly from home at the moment. You're in the process of maybe building a new studio. You're saying with the soundproofing, Danny. Tell us about that journey, because you were you were the editor of a big website, Recombu, and you've gone into doing your tech channel. And you do have this very broadcastery kind of voice. It's a style which suits YouTube. But tell us about that journey, about deciding to go and do it on your own.
See, I've never thought of my voice as broadcaster. I've always hated my voice.
You have this very nice tone.
Yeah, whenever I had to do videos for Future or something like that, I was always like, oh God, I'm going to start. I've got these really nice, posh, softly spoken people who, they present nicely. Like proper traditional British presenters. And then you got me going, oh, you're right, and but it's good that you think that. So it's I guess I'm trying to build up a kind of studio environment at home. It's basically just my garage, sort of with all the bits ripped out, and as you see, like bits of foam stuck up everywhere. So I've got something semi-professional, because as you pointed out, quite a lot of the American dudes, they've got like their big studio set up. I don't know if they rent them, if that's actually the houses where they live in, who knows. But it'll be nice to have something that looks a bit more pro rather than just me sat on my couch at home just banging on about stuff. So hopefully now that I've got to that sort of level where people are actually watching my videos, which is slightly terrifying. To make them look a bit more pro.
That's funny that you mentioned the accent thing, because I don't feel like I'm doing it now, but I am subconsciously doing it. You're from further north than I am, but I'm from the north. I subconsciously kind of drop those northernisms, exactly, but I think you lean into them. You're like you're proud of it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean it's not conscious. It's it's just a product of having grown up in Sunderland for 20 odd years. And every time I go up north, of course, and I lapse into full-on northernism, so I'm pretty much indecipherable to anyone else who doesn't come from the sort of northeast. But I can't really win, because down here everyone's like, oh, you bloody northerner, and then I go up there, they're like, oh, you sound all posh and southern now.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of like
You've changed,
halfway.
man. Yeah.
I've changed. So I'm kind of an in-betweener now, I guess.
So what's getting you excited at the moment? What have you been playing with? What have you been using? I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about Huawei's P40 in the news, but is there anything that's getting you excited at the moment in tech?
At the moment, well, it's kind of that funny thing. Well, obviously, MWC 2020 was absolutely destroyed by good old coronavirus, our friend and buddy. So that means that all of the launches that should have happened then are kind of trickling out now. So we've got Nokia coming up next week, which should be hopefully a new flagship and some new sort of good mid-ranges, more affordable phones. So looking forward to that. They're normally some pretty interesting tech. It'd be really good to see Nokia produce a really stunning flagship again.
Yeah.
Because the 9 Pure View, great camera if you know what you're doing, if you want to get really some nice professional shots. But in terms of the actual handset itself, it was a bit of a letdown. So it'd be great to see them really produce some stunning flagship tech again. And I've been playing with the Oppo Find X2 Pro, which was just launched last Friday. Again, that was supposed to happen at MWC, and that's a nice premium bit of tech. In fact, I've got it right here.
Nice.
I'll slip it out for you, Guy.
Yeah.
It's got a lovely vegan leather backing on it.
I thoroughly approve. As a vegetarian, not quite part-time vegan.
Not quite full-on vegan yet, but yeah, a lovely sort of salmony pink. I think they call it orange. To me, it doesn't look orange.
It looks really nice, yeah.
I don't know if I'm just partially colourblind or what. But yeah, got a nice soft fit.
Can I hold it up for the guys who are watching on the stream?
There you go.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very nice. So this is launching in the coming weeks.
So this is launching in April time. So this is kind of an early release. Very nice camera on it.
Yeah.
Check out my unboxing and everything if you're interested. On good old TechSpurt. But it's going to cost over £1,000 when it comes to the UK. And one of the things I try to do as much as possible on my channel is feature the more budgety friendly stuff, because again it's something that you see a lot on YouTube. Everyone covers the iPhones to death, Samsung's big launches, but then when it comes to the more affordable stuff, they tend to sort of get kind of cast aside or maybe briefly mentioned. Obviously not everyone's got 50-60 quid a month to drop on their smartphones. So.
Well, sure. I mean, and also, do you find that the actual manufacturers do the events for them? That it seems, I remember going to one for Samsung last year, one of their mid-ranges. I can't even. It's bad, but I can't remember.
Probably one of the A series stuff.
Yeah, I think it was Portugal. It was Portugal. I think it was the A series. Yeah, you're right. But the big launches, the big iPhone, the big Oppo, they get the flagships get the launches, but the mid-ranges sort of get snuck out.
It's kind of like, and by the way, here you go. It's like it's Sony's big launch. They released their budget L4 series smartphone the week before.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a press release, and that was that done with. And then everything else kind of came at the actual launch. And Samsung, like now, as you mentioned them, like obviously the flagships, they're really big on the flagships. They did the big S20 launch lately. The only device they seem to really be seeding is the Ultra, which is the crazy expensive one with the 100 times space zoom and all that shenanigans. And if you try to get a budget device out of them, like an A-series phone, they just don't have them. They say, sorry, we don't have any review devices. So it's really weird, because those are actually the phones I prefer from them. They're great value for money. They've still got some pretty decent camera tech, those stunning AMOLED displays, and they're like 300-400 quid instead of £1,000.
Do you find people are searching for those phones?
Oh yeah, 100%.
They're not just going into the store and going, right, I need to upgrade to something, and I don't want to spend more than £30 a month, and so they're then getting pushed towards the A whatever. They are actually researching.
I think the people are getting a bit more savvy that they don't need to spend a crazy amount of money on a flagship phone. And I don't know if it's just my particular views, they know to expect the sort of, I cover the sort of mid-range to the value stuff. But the requests I get from them are generally for the likes of the A-series stuff, Honor smartphones, Oppo, things like that, Xiaomi, I get a lot of requests for, which they know are going to be sort of, £200, £300, but do everything they need to do.
Yeah, sure.
So,
and actually that's a good point. I mean, that leads into my next question, which is, it's not that you have a niche for yourself, but it's you do definitely cover those sort of more value phones. And the video that I watched and commented on recently was you saying, look, you know, the iPhone 11, whatever it's been, 6 months now. Is it 6 months?
6 months, yeah. Terrifying.
You know, it's double the price of something that is as good. Like,
yeah.
you were quite negative about the whole thing,
yeah,
which I thought was good. It's like, you know, I'm an Apple guy. I've got the iPhone 11. It's been a while in the sort of last generations of iPhones where I've been genuinely excited about the new one.
Yeah.
But you were coming down hard on it. What do you think at the moment is lacking from the Apple phones, and what do you think is a better alternative at sort of £500?
I just think they're kind of rested on their laurels, to be honest. I haven't seen any genuine innovation from them in forever. All their phones are kind of like the one big change physically, and the new one was to make the camera chassis even more big and ugly and weird.
Yeah.
You can't fault the camera tech's really nice, the display tech's really nice, but as a whole overall package, it doesn't really offer anything that a £400 Oppo phone offers. One of my favourite phones from last year was the Asus Zenfone 6. Fantastic smartphone, had a really innovative flip camera, so you could use the same rear camera tech to shoot your selfie vlog. If you're into vlogging, you can shoot a 4K 60 FPS vlog. Which you can't do with any other sort of smartphone out there. Stuff like that. And I think it's especially tricky for iPhone users, I guess, because it's its own ecosystem, and tearing yourself out of that, especially if you spend a lot of money on apps, on iTunes, things like that, and then planting yourself in something you're completely unfamiliar with, like Android. It's obviously gonna take some real dedication to do that. Whereas thankfully, if you're already in the Android world with something like Samsung, you can say, oh, okay, well, it's basically the same ecosystem, same set of apps and all that. I'll spend £300 on an Oppo, Xiaomi, whatever, and get a very similar experience, but save a bit of money for the old beer fund. Or
yeah, for sure. I mean, the only thing I've noticed that I would say against that is that iPhones, if you're getting rid of them and you're upgrading, they do kind of hold their value quite well. So if you're selling it after a couple of years, it does tend to hold a decent amount of value. I suppose
if you're doing like a trade-in or something, as long as they haven't balked it with any deliberate
that's right
or anything.
That's
guess.
right. Yeah, as long as it hasn't been slowed down too much. Yeah, I mean that was the story we covered last week, was about the iPhone users in America, if they were affected by, I think it was the iPhone 7 slow down gate or whatever it was, then you were going to get about $25 back.
Value for money, I'm sure. After you spent $1,500 on a bit of tech.
Exactly. So what else is you see folding phones? Are you excited about these at all?
Not really. I mean, I from a technological standpoint, they're very impressive. Some of the stuff they do, the hinge mechanisms and everything, that's fantastic. But obviously consumers don't care about how many separate individual components go into making up a hinge or anything. They're just going to look at the price tag and go, that's ridiculous. Especially like the Huawei Mate XS. XS is a very appropriate name for it, unfortunately. It's a great little device. The problem is they don't really solve anything for me personally. Like the likes of the Galaxy Fold. You open them up and it's kind of like a tablet style thing. But if you want to watch a video, then you've got massive amounts of letterbox, and so you almost just want to watch it just like on the front screen. Yeah. At least you would do if the front screen wasn't rubbish.
Right.
And often it's like previous generation chipsets and not quite the best camera tech they could have. So you kind of spend the money just because it looks a bit fancy, and if you pull it out, your mate Dave down the pub, he's going to be like, "Wow, that's amazing! What is that?" And but that'll probably get old pretty fast.
That's right. Yeah, I mentioned it on last week's show when we were talking about the Samsung. The only person I know that actually has bought one of these is a mutual friend who works at Samsung. We were at the same party where he was holding it. So I don't know if he got a staff discount on it or anything, but I've not seen anyone else sort of take the plunge in the wild. And we work, with tech fans. So I can't imagine many other people have.
No, exactly. At tech events, you see a flood of Galaxy Folds, never out in the wild as you see it. And it's hilarious as well, because then everyone puts them in their pocket and they sit down. And because they're so big and heavy, they then immediately slide out of everyone's pockets. You just hear clatter, bang, smash as these Galaxy Folds are flying out of people's pockets.
What are the downsides of running a mobile focused tech YouTube channel? Is it the amount of events? Is it the amount of constant flow of phones? Because you said Oppo released a phone last week. It's an incredibly nice phone from what I've just seen of it, and now it's on to whatever the next thing is.
Just the next thing. Oh yeah, 100%. Because obviously, if you work for like a Tech Radar or CNET or anything like that, you've got a team of people. So each person can have their own sort of specialization. They can dedicate themselves to that. So I try and cover some stuff outside of smartphones as well, things like laptops, VR gaming. I'm trying to sort of cover because I think that's quite an interesting area.
Yeah, you've got a video on the best VR games, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Best PSVR games, and I'm a big fan of the Oculus Quest. I think that's the sort of way forward for all that sort of complete freedom of movement, and the hand tracking, everything is incredible.
That's on a side note, that Half-Life game is coming out at the end of the month. I don't know if is it on Oculus Quest? I know it's
not yet. No. It might eventually come to it, but I think they're probably going to keep it for as long as possible as an exclusive for the Steam VR.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm so excited about playing that. But sorry, so you were saying you cover other things. You cover
that's things. I try and cover bits, but as you say, like smartphones alone, you can easily run a channel just dedicated to smartphones, especially if you cover the whole range of stuff. Because like every month, Motorola by itself, I've lost track of how many phones. They've launched now. People joke that I've become the Motorola channel because it seems like every other week I'm covering another one.
Yeah.
And then with the likes of Oppo and Xiaomi launching in the UK, now you've got a flood of budget phones to cover as well. So it's kind of a shame. It would be nicer to have a slower, especially when you get peaks like MWC for things like that. You get so many phones at once. So it would be nice to spend a bit of time, really dedicating yourself to one phone, and then sort of slowly move on to the next one when you feel like you're ready rather than having to chop and change. Sometimes I can unbox a phone and I'll do a camera test, but I won't actually be able to get around to a full review because there's just no time.
Yeah, right.
Which is a shame. I might try and get back to it in 3 or 4 months and sort of see how it's doing or whatever. But
so it's the churn. I mean, you mentioned we met each other originally when I was at GameSpot, and you were into your video games, and you've gone into tech as well, similar to I as I have. But so you still get time to play the odd game, and so you specialised in VR. But is there anything else that you're playing at the moment?
No, I mean, this is the annoying thing. I've got the PS4, I've got Xbox One, and all that, and I turn on my Xbox to play DVDs for my 4-year-old daughter. I'm trying to get her into Dogtanian and all the classics I used to watch, and that's it. I don't really get a chance to play a PlayStation or Xbox or anything, which is a real shame because I've got a bit of Game Pass or something like that.
Yeah.
The world is open. You can try as much as you want. And another one is the Nvidia Geforce Now as well.
Yeah, so you've been using that because that's rolled out of beta now, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it's now it's a full-on service. It's free to play, or you can pay. I think it's £5 a month, and you can you get priority access. You don't get booted after like an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's great if you want to play PC games but in a more sociable, relaxed, like play in the living room with the kids, with the family or whatever.
Or if you're travelling or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You can get it on the go wherever you want, kind of like the Google Stadia or how you're supposed to pronounce it.
I thought it was Stadia, but the thing that I've noted about that, I was using the GeForce Beta a lot, and I think it was because I had Nvidia set me up with a press account, and I used it, but it was always I wanted to use it when I was in a hotel room or at my parents or whatever, but it was never quite as slick as I wanted it to be.
Yes.
That's nothing against Nvidia. None of them have been as quite slick as I want them to be.
Yeah.
But you're saying maybe they've gotten over that now.
Yeah, touch wood. I've got the premium account, and so far, touch wood, it seems to be very, very smooth. It's sort of obviously depending on factors like how much, how good your internet is in your area, how many devices you've got connected to it all. So hopefully like some Wi-Fi 6 will help to sort that out. But I try and do a bit again, but to be honest, 90% of my gaming these days is on the Nintendo Switch, purely because you can take it out on the train when you go into events, things like that. Play it in bed at 12:30, 1 o'clock when you just can't get to sleep or whatever. So that's where the majority of my gaming.
It's a great console. I mean, it's sort of 3 years in now, and it's had some absolute all-time classic games released on it. You've got Animal Crossing coming,
of course,
next month, the end of this month,
pretty soon.
Hopefully there'll be more of those Nintendo classics coming through, but it really has. It's one of Nintendo's best consoles already, I think.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was a big fan of the 3DS, obviously the Game Boy and everything before that, purely because of the portable aspect, the fact you can play it wherever, and it's quite sociable as well, playing on the bus or the train with other people and stuff. The fact that you can hook them up, and I love the fact that they're bringing out all these indie games. I'm a massive adventure game geek.
Okay.
So I'm loving that you've got a lot of adventure games coming to their classic ones and new ones.
Yeah. And then before we move on to this week's news, which I want to get your opinions on, tell us a bit about your publishing, because do you talk about this in general? I should have asked you ahead of the show.
Publishing,
like books,
my books. Oh God, I forgot I even did those.
I just wanted to, just because you had some experience in sort of independent publishing.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. So a while ago, before I had children and a YouTube channel and things that sort of sap my time and energy, I used to write books occasionally. You know, a nice Sunday afternoon, I'd sit there in my pipe and slippers and smash out a sophisticated.
Is that how people?
novel.
I thought that's how people read books. I didn't imagine someone sat there with a pipe and slippers.
It's basically a dark room, me, a pint of whiskey, and just smash it out basically. And I used to drive Tori nuts because she'd be like, "Are you done yet? Can we go out into the sunlight and do stuff?" But yeah, so I wrote a series of gangster novels and a couple of other sort of crime fiction-y type things. And the Kindle was, I don't know if it's still good because I haven't published a novel in about 5 years, I think was my last one. But it was a great little medium because obviously traditional publishing, it's really hard to get picked up by an agent or publisher.
Sure.
There's so many people out there writing great
Good
stuff.
people, yeah.
Exactly. So Kindle is a great way of just getting your stuff out there, and it was weird as well because my books were sort of getting maybe 12 or 13 downloads a week sort of thing, like just sort of minimal numbers, and then all of a sudden like 1 week, I don't know what happened, Amazon must have featured it on something, and then suddenly the figures just like leapt up. It's like, wow, this is amazing. So churn, get as many novels out there as possible. And then of course it just massively nosedived.
I remember reading reading a Wired article that was about those romance novels that traditionally appeal to a female audience. They would do very well on the Kindle store, and was that same? Maybe that was the same for the crime genre.
Yeah, I think the crime is a popular genre in general, and I guess that it's one of those things where you get recommended if certain people read other similar books by another author. They get recommended that stuff, and Amazon. It was good. It was very easy to use, very straightforward. Definitely recommend it for anyone who wants to smash out a novel, a werewolves and vampires romance novel or whatever, and then just publish it yourself on platform. Just post yourself.
It's really interesting. My latest thing of a lot of people in games talk about whenever there's a Steam sale they'll buy something and then never play it. So they have this Steam library of shame that they've never played. My latest digital collection of money that I'm spending of shame is the Kindle store, because they do these 99p days, and they'll be like, there's whatever there is. I'm trying to think of a recent example, but like a management book or a travel book or something I think, I should definitely get around to reading that. Add it 99p, and then it goes into a library, and then I never ever read it. But it's it's a good platform for. Hopefully that time when I retire in the Caribbean and I can just catch up on all that stuff.
Any day now, mate.
Any day now.
You can do the podcast from the Caribbean if you want to fly me out there for episode 100 or whatever.
Yeah, if I can get a sponsor, that'll definitely happen. So just to remind people, it's youtube.com/techspurt, SPURT.
TechSpurt, yeah. If you type in Spurt into YouTube, you'll probably get me third or fourth.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe don't do that.
Definitely don't type it into Google.
Don't type it into Google, and you're also you're obviously on Twitter because I've been tweeting you, but
yes, so I'm CBar UK, kind of an awkward handle which I've had forever, but it's SEEBAR UK. But again, if you type in TechSpurt or Chris Barrowclough or whatever, Barrowclough's even worse to spell, so don't even bother. Yeah,
I was like, am I getting this right when I was tweeting it out? We'll talk to Chris more shortly and cover the news, but remember, you can drop me an email. Always nice to hear from you guys, whether it's a question or some general feedback or a guest that you'd love to see on an upcoming episode. So it's guy@guycocker.com. Let me know what you think about the show. And please remember, if you can, to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Hopefully, we had the first episode go up last week with the Gadgets Boy and Gadgets John guys. So I'm just waiting for Apple to approve the RSS feed. So hopefully we'll be there very shortly. And it will also be on Google Podcasts as well. But if you can leave a review once it's live, that will really help new people to discover and find the show. Okay, time for some news this week. I picked out the week's biggest and most interesting news stories. First up is actually one that Chris chose. This is Huawei ditching the Paris event for the launch of its P40. So the upcoming Paris launch of of Huawei's new flagship P40 Pro, which was due to take place in Paris later this month. Was it next week?
So yes, it's March the 26th, so not next week, week after. On the Thursday,
has been cancelled. I've seen Huawei's PR contact who I know. He's been saying, obviously disappointing, but it's the most important thing is to just protect people's health and safety. So they're disappointed, but they can't wait to get this into the hands of users. And yes, so far in France there's been 1,400 confirmed virus cases. You mentioned the word earlier. I was watching a video yesterday, Chris, about general financial performance, because my pension and my general stocks and shares have plummeted about 15% in the last week, which is quite scary.
Yes.
So he was saying any mention on YouTube of the C word the virus related C word can get you punished on YouTube. So I was
really?
like, yeah. Well, apparently this is what he was saying. I don't know if that's nonsense.
God, I hope that's not a thing. I've said it so many times.
he just said, it's the virus that we won't name because you will get you punished. Apparently, so you said it already, so we can say it on
Sorry
it.
about
No,
that.
it's okay. Don't worry. I just was wanting to get
you. Just wrecked your entire.
I don't know.
Setup.
They obviously do scan through videos, and there must be a reason for them not wanting to. Maybe not punishing, but not wanting to promote videos with that because there can be a lot of misinformation floating around.
Which is fair enough. You don't want to spread the misinformation.
So anyway, I just noticed that on a video yesterday as I was preparing this the script actually. So were you due to go over there, or do you do these events? Do you fly around?
Yeah, so you usually do quite a lot of these events, and obviously Huawei's not the first one by any means to cancel its launch and do an online shindig instead. So, and I mean, to be honest, I kind of hope this sets a trend now anyway, because often the manufacturers, they'll spend crazy amounts of money and they'll fly people, like hundreds, if not thousands of people all around the globe to this one location just to launch a phone and, maybe so people can have a quick hands-on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously in these days of carbon neutrality and all that kind of shenanigans, it's probably a bit sketchy. I think anything to do to limit that is good. And I think online launches work perfectly well. It makes sense for local PR firms to say to journalists, come into the office, get the device, have a play around with it, get your hands-on content, and then when we launch it, we'll just do it online, and then everyone can stream it, as long as obviously it actually works, because quite a lot of these live streams, they often fall over.
Yeah, we had a little bit of trouble getting this one set up. Yeah.
But it's all good now.
Yeah, so hopefully, yeah. Should check that in a second. Yeah.
So hopefully this will actually set a precedent, and good old Greta will be on board with it all, I'm sure. And hopefully.
It's interesting having been to these events. I mean, it's fine when they're in London. I'm going to one on Friday that's just in a bar I used to go to, a gaming bar.
Sounds perfect.
That I used to actually live just around the corner from, so I spent too much time in. But which is great because you get hands-on with the products, you get to talk to a representative, you get to meet with other journalists, get their thoughts. But I've been on obscene launches, and they've gotten less and less extreme. I remember going to one maybe about 10 years ago with Sony, and it was a private jet to Barcelona with a big, in an incredible hotel, partying with bottles of champagne being brought to your table out till the early to the early morning, and then. It was for a phone. Actually, I think it was they did a partnership for the PlayStation phone. So it was a big, It was a big one. It was the first Sony Ericsson phone, I think, at the time to have a PlayStation partnership. I remember this well now. And I wasn't very impressed. So I wrote a thing that was like, I don't think this is any good. And they spent all that money, and it was crazy. It's gotten less like that. But there are still these launches that happen in far-flung places and with all the added costs, and I think it's interesting because you're right. Obviously, coronavirus is very, very serious. It's the right thing to do to not put people in danger, but also it might be a reckoning of sorts for these lavish press launches where thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions sometimes, of pounds are being spent on flying journalists around to try and impress them, and then, as we've talked about before, they just move on to the next thing. So,
yeah, exactly.
Do you think that it's going to then result in, obviously a lot of people working from home at the moment. You're here because your partner has to work from home because of what's happening. So, do you think that's a good thing in general? You're still going to get access to the products, as you said.
I mean, that's the thing. It's all about the access. That's all I care about. So if I can literally just stroll into a Covent Garden office or Soho or wherever, and have a play around with it and get some footage shot, that's all I care about.
Sure.
I don't need to be flown out to And also a lot of these. The craziest one at the moment is definitely still Qualcomm. They still fly.
Yeah.
Literally thousands of people to a Hawaiian resort every December to launch their new Snapdragon chipset, which is a great bit of tech, and it's I love spending time with the Qualcomm guys, but it's insane flying to the opposite end of the globe. As much as I like sitting there with a Tia Maria or whatever on a Hawaiian beach.
On a beach, yeah. Well, this is the point of the show really for me, is to sort of give people an insight into some of this stuff that goes on that we sort of take for granted as journalists or content creators, and it's really interesting because I haven't been on that fabled Hawaii trip Qualcomm, I'm sure my audience will know, they make a lot of the chipsets that are in the flagships and actually just most of the Android devices out there.
Yeah, definitely, and modems and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
And yes, of course, yeah. So they make a lot of 5G stuff as well. And basically they because they're used in every sort of device going, they have a lot of a big marketing budget.
Yes.
And they will fly journalists out to these incredible places. Like I say, I haven't been to the Hawaii one, but I have been on a night out in Las Vegas at CES and been at the Qualcomm table.
And you're still alive.
And I'm still alive. And
amazing.
It's bottle service that will cost thousands of dollars per go.
Oh, it's crazy. Put a sparkler in a bottle of vodka, and suddenly it becomes $5,000 or something.
And get a parade of young women to bring it out and party, and it's just crazy. But I think they also want people to write positive things about Qualcomm, and sometimes aside from a mention that it's got the latest Qualcomm chip in a phone, there's not a lot of focus on, or the benchmarks, there's not a lot of focus on what Qualcomm does with the consumer press, maybe. Yeah,
this is true, yeah. So I guess they need to push that a little bit harder to actually get some proper coverage in your sort of traditional sort of, not the less techie stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And sort of like people from like the broadsheets and stuff like that to actually cover and sort of gets the Qualcomm name into the mass sort of mindset, I guess.
That's it, and that association that you need to be looking for what Qualcomm chipset is in your latest smartphone. Although the Samsung S20's got it's got it over here. It's not got the Qualcomm.
Yeah, annoyingly they always put the Exynos one in, which is never as energy efficient as the Snapdragon. So you'll see every time there's a new Samsung flagship phone, you'll get Exynos versus Snapdragon videos.
Do you know why that is? It must be a cost-based thing.
I've never really got a straight answer from Samsung, to be honest. So I'm not sure if they don't know themselves or what is going on. It's really because obviously you get loads of Snapdragon phones in the UK and Europe, and yet for some reason we always get fobbed off with the Exynos ones.
That's right. So so a lot of these trips go on, but maybe that will become less of a thing. I mean, to be brutally honest, I mean we both moved away from sort of traditional press. I think that the amount that's spent on the traditional press versus the reach that influencers or content creators or YouTubers or however you want to describe it have, I think there is an imbalance there in the amount of time and effort and money that's spent there. But yes, it's. I'm sure it's very nice to be flying out to Hawaii. Then I've never been. I would.
It's kind of mental because you're flying for. I think the trip there was about 26 hours, and it's obviously to see it back. You have to change. You have to stop over in like Chicago or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're literally there for 2 days to cover the stuff.
So you're flying more than you.
Exactly. You spend more time traveling than you do like sat on the beach. And in fact, it got to the point where I wasn't sure I was even going to be allowed into Hawaii because I got to customs and the guy did not believe I was just going there for 2 days.
Right.
To sit on the beach and cover a chipset.
Right.
It just blew his mind. He's like, what are you doing? You must be coming here to like blow up the country or something.
Yeah.
Right? So I got escorted to the little back room. I got to absolutely pap myself for about half an hour. Meanwhile, my flight was in about 40 minutes time. So I was like, right, well, even if I manage to get through this bit unscathed, will I even catch the flight?
Yeah, I've had that. I've only had that on a holiday where, because I was in the US, journalists, you need to have a visa to work over there. So I got so used to traveling on my visa. I actually went to Florida on a holiday at the end of last year, and I went to what is traditionally, it was on I think it was a TUI or Thomas Cook flight, and it was a very touristy airport. So I caused a whole load of trouble by saying, no, I'm just traveling on my visa. And I got took into the back room and had everything, like it took maybe 3 or 4 hours to get interviewed and get, it's not, I thought I was going to be okay, but it's quite a scary, like,
it's not
what
fun.
have I done here kind of thing, when I should have just travelled on my Astra or whatever. But.
Exactly, and no one can intimidate you more than an American customs guy. They are born and bred to do that
they
stuff.
Enjoy it,
yeah.
But obviously they're doing an important job and
it.
And,
great job, guys.
All the rest of it.
Any customs guys who happen to be randomly watching this live stream?
Next news. Before we move on, the Huawei P40. You excited?
I mean, it's one of these kind of like it's kind of awkward with the whole Google services things. Obviously, you have to bring up the fact that it's not going to have the Google services, so therefore it's going to make an impact in the Western market.
Yes.
Pretty much everyone relies on Google in some way, shape, or form. The Google Play Store, obviously, the lack of that is going to be a big omission. There are ways around it. You can certainly live with these devices absolutely fine, but you do have to make compromises.
Sure.
But the actual hardware itself is guaranteed to be really strong.
Amazing.
Like Huawei, I just remember like 3 years ago, Huawei's cameras were really mediocre on its flagship phones, and it is massively upped its game since like the P20s basically. They've always been, right at the top there, rivaling Apple, Samsung, any of them really. So hopefully really strong camera tech. And I noticed actually that some tech journalists have been hands-on with the phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, but the phone was in a box, so they couldn't actually see it. They could literally just reach in through holes in the box and grab the phone.
Right.
Which I read this. I had to read it on several different sites just to make sure it wasn't like a piss take or something.
No, I didn't see this. No.
Yeah.
So it was, because when they did their foldable phone, I remember seeing that was in a box, so you couldn't have a hands on.
Yes, you could just see it.
Certain people could have a hands on, but I think we had when I worked on stuff, it was someone else that had the hands on, but I saw it through a box. But they've got holes in the box now.
From what it sounds like, basically, it's literally a box that you reach in, kind of like one of those things you do at a Halloween party.
Yeah,
you put in jelly, and it's like,
it's
zombie brains. Which it seems bizarre. But then, from a Huawei perspective, it's genius because they've now given a lot of tech journalists their hands on with it. So these journalists have then gone away and wrote up what is essentially a non-story about having, it's a bit slippery, or I don't know what you can say about it. It feels like a phone. So they've got all these, articles, columns out there going out there before the launches even happened. It's in the public mindset, and they haven't given anything away. So it's a genius move.
I call me old-fashioned, but I feel like a hands-on needs to be when I'm having a hands-on. I need to be able to see it without being encumbered by a box. That's my lowest minimum entry.
Minimal obstacles in the way.
Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, well, that's the world we live in now.
Exactly.
Next news story is about the free Call of Duty. So Call of Duty Warzone has just launched. I was actually playing a couple of games last night. So I've got my PC in the corner. I was trying to see if this was available on PC, but it should, in theory, now be available as at the time of listening on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. It's a battle royale game. It's been rumored for a long time, and obviously they had a dalliance with a battle royale mode in the last Call of Duty. I cover video games for a living, and I can't even remember what the last one was. So we had Modern Warfare, and then we had Black Ops, and there was a mode there was a battle royale mode in that. But this is a full free to play game. It's going to support 150 players, which is more than Fortnite's 100 and Apex Legends 60 players. And although it will be a standalone free to play game, purchasers of Modern Warfare will be able to transfer content like skins and equipment. So what do you think? Is this obviously the way that the industry is going? There were some analysts that were saying it's smart of Activision to get ahead of the curve. I actually feel like they're behind the curve.
They
should have come out last year maybe. But
well, that's the thing. Like battle royales have been around for a while now. And PUBG, I remember playing that 2-3 years ago or something like that. It was starting to get big.
Yeah.
And obviously, Fortnite is absolutely huge. You can't walk into a toy store now without being just like Fortnite everywhere. Oh yeah, it's crazy.
You would know this having is your child's probably too young, I guess, at 4?
Yeah, so she's 4, so she's just getting into stuff like Kirby and things like that. She can just about do a bit of that. She hasn't, she'll be beating me on Call of Duty in a year or two, guaranteed, 100%.
Do you play Call of Duty or not?
So I used to play a lot of Call of Duty back in the day, up to like Modern Warfare and Black Ops and stuff. I play a lot of PUBG Mobile. That's my real foray into the whole Battle Royale kind of thing, because it's a great test for performance for smartphones.
That's right.
You can play around with the detail levels. They got they change the frame rate, and you can do a good bit of benchmarking with it. I suck at it, as anyone who has watched my reviews will attest to. I'm lucky if I get sort of 2 or 3 kills before I'm off in a horrific fashion. But
it's but like I say, it's a good test of performance. I gather more and more people are getting into COD Mobile, which is a reasonable facsimile of the main game as well. So it's becoming less of a thing to go out and buy to drop 40 quid a year on Call of Duty. The interesting thing from a business perspective is that Call of Duty it appeals to an older audience, and an older audience does tend to have more disposable income to spend. So in theory, you might get more people who engage with the Call of Duty brand dropping money on a free-to-play game, which will then continue to make money for Activision. So I think the analysts are quite hot on this and think it's a good thing and think it's going to be a revenue driver for Activision. It's just, for me, certainly some of the excitement's gone out of the Call of Duty brand. But I for this, because we're going to be talking about it, I played some of the single-player campaign of Modern Warfare last night. It's really good. Really good. It's really exciting. It does that whole roller coaster, thing, and makes you feel very much like you're a special ops in the military, performing these incredible cinematic moments, but it's still, it's still the same Call of Duty, right? I feel like, it's like Assassin's Creed. It kind of got to that stage where it was one every year, and you just needed a break. You needed a little bit of a break, and then maybe to come back into it. But still, a lot of people out there care about it. Are you going to give it a go? See what it's about?
Yeah, well, 100% give it a go if I get the chance and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
it's a time thing, isn't it? Mate?
Well, it's also the time of downloading it, because I caught my eye that it's like 100 gig download or something insane. Which
yeah, I mean, I just Borderlands 3 is going to hit Steam, I think, in a couple of days' time. So I was preloading that last night. I'm on a 100 meg line, and it was taking ages. It's like 60 gig for that game.
It's
getting mental.
It's crazy, and that's because that's kind of the problem with modern gaming, is that it's obviously like back in the day when we first started off. A game would come on a CD or a floppy disk. 3.5 megabytes. That's what they had to work with.
That's right. I don't know, not quite that bad. No, I remember. I remember when I started sort of game journalism. It was just about the Xbox 360 launch time, so it was. I remember there was a period there where just every week there was just some amazing game. Like, it felt like it was like, Dead Rising, then Tomb Raider reboot, and maybe this was just before, but like Project Gotham Race. It just felt like there was so many good games that were coming out all the time, and it's still like that. But it's just, I mean, the problem I have these days is like, I want to play a game, I want to play Forza, I want to play Gears, and there's like that patch you've got to sit there and watch and download.
It's the worst,
And you're just like, I'm not bothered. I'm not fussed.
You're like, I've got to go watch some Netflix.
Yeah, I'll watch
come
Netflix.
Back, it's still down. Yeah, yesterday I was playing a bit of Zombie Army Trilogy. 10 gigabyte update.
I need, as a side note, so Chris and I were in the pub a couple weeks ago. There's a few of you guys who are playing
Zombie Army Trilogy 4, I believe it is. It's got a kind of a clunky name. It's basically shooting Nazi zombies in the face.
Zombie Army, isn't it?
Should be called. Zombie Army Trilogy. I don't think they've got Nazi in the trilogy, even though you're basically battling Hitler and a bunch of Nazis.
Yeah, it's all in the marketing, definitely.
Yes.
There's Nazis there, but I don't think they put it in the title.
They do not emphasise that.
Probably,
part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good fun game. But yeah, 10 gigabytes.
I know. For a patch,
Even the thought that a game could be 10 gigabytes. But I guess, I mean, it's just the kind of the modern ecosystem. All is.
It's 4K textures. It's all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. And obviously, a lot of the devs are under a lot of pressure by the publishers to put stuff out there, so they have to meet their deadlines. Because back in the day, I remember games being pushed back months, if not years, at a time. What was that famous John Romero one that got pushed back? Daikatana.
Daikatana. Yeah, it was a long
got pushed back like a decade or something.
Yeah.
Duke Nukem Forever, obviously.
That's right.
That didn't come out till forever.
Similar, and when they came out, they were both pretty terrible.
They were
games.
both not great. So maybe that's an argument too. Rush your game to market, so get it out there, and then just move on to the next thing. And if it's rubbish, these people won't be like, we waited a decade for this.
There's something about that though, in terms of game design, where what is a good solid foundation, over the course of 2 years, because game design changes so much, can become complete garbage over 10 years. So like when Duke Nukem came out, I didn't play too much of Daikatana. I read a lot about it in PC Zone at the time, because it was John Romero and he was so revered, and he was a sort of a rock star
Really, he was the first big sort of gaming celebrity, I guess.
Was.
And because he used to do like a developer diary or something, didn't he, in PC Zone? I remember reading that.
That's right. And with Duke Nukem, when it came out, it just felt so dated from both in terms of like the mechanics of it, because I think the Borderlands developers took it over to try and get the thing finished, but just in terms of its humour and its design, it just felt very dated, and that's because they added some bells and whistles, but the frame of it was a game design that was essentially 10 years old. And so if you think back to what 10 years ago in gaming, it's massively different.
It makes a big difference, definitely.
Next story, Nintendo PlayStation prototype sells for $300,000, and this isn't even including the auction house's fee. So this is the fabled, and for a period, kind of, I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't know it was real. It's a prototype that was the offspring of a short-lived collaboration between Nintendo and Sony. Sony was supposed to be adding CD-ROM support to the Super Nintendo. They then went off and created the PlayStation instead. Smart move.
Yeah.
And this is a prototype that an auctioneer called Heritage Auctions said is the last remaining Nintendo prototype, as the others were probably destroyed. And that probably explains why it is now the most expensive gaming object ever at $300,000. You can see photos of it online. It looks like Nintendo design, just with a CD-ROM attachment. I mean, obviously it won't play any games because there were no games made for it, as far as I know. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, this is one that I would like in my collection. I think if I had a gaming collection, it's a cool piece of gaming history.
I suppose it is a piece of heritage. Obviously, it's very unique, and as you say, there's probably no other ones in existence. But I've never really been a collector. But I figure if I was going to get a game and console collection on the go, I'd at least want to have a fully functional console.
Sure.
That would then play games that you can then occasionally, invite your mates around and crack a couple of beers and play a bit of, classic Mario Kart, classic Super Mario Brothers. Whereas this is just going to literally sit there and do nothing.
You can't keep it. I mean, I couldn't keep it here in my flat because it's it would just get stolen, right?
Yeah,
so you have to keep it somewhere else.
What are you saying about Croydon, guys?
No, it's not saying. Croydon's lovely. It does have a certain amount of knife crime, but it is it's up and coming, as they say. That you wouldn't be able to keep it on display, so I just feel like it would get stolen.
Well, exactly. I mean, it belongs in a museum.
It
or
does.
Something,
that's
surely.
right. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming there's a gaming museum out there somewhere, probably in Japan or.
There is. There's certainly. There are some very. If you're a video games collector, I think that's my camera just dying. If you're a collector, Akihabara in Tokyo is the place to go.
Such a great place for geeks. It really is.
You get original sealed rare. Famicom and even going right up to Dreamcast games, which are amazing. But there's actually one in Sheffield, which is where I went to university.
Okay.
So there's a video game museum in Sheffield because I saw someone commenting on this story on the BBC saying that it's it's super rare and that's why it's sold for so much. But I mean, obviously Sony went on to create the PlayStation, which then went on to be their gaming arm, which is now responsible for a good chunk of their profits.
That's a good move, definitely.
It was a good move, yeah. It's amazing that this history was that they were supposed to be helping add CD-ROM support to the Super Nintendo. So they then went on and created their own console. But this was a prototype that they developed. It's interesting. Do go and have a look at the story if you get a chance. But it didn't say who the buyer was. But they'll end up paying another $60,000 once the auction house's buyer's premium is added, which is absolutely crazy.
Oh God, I believe I read somewhere it was the owner of Pets.com.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, which I don't know. I've never been on Pets.com.
I don't have a Pets.com.
Assuming it's exactly about Pets.com. I'm guessing the guy's probably minted. I mean, he has to be, right?
Sure.
He's probably not like taking out a second mortgage to buy this thing. So it's probably like a drop in the ocean for him or whatever.
Sure.
But at the same time, why not just buy a Betamax, because that would be just as useful.
It shows how gaming demographics have changed as well, because you would assume that it would be someone from Facebook or so, like some kind of young probably guy who's got way too much money just being like, I'll have that.
Exactly,
if I was on a Facebook programmer's salary, I might be like, whatever, I want to have that PlayStation prototype.
Yeah, just smash the bonus on that.
Anyway, so the last story is about, I don't know if you're interested in this at all, Chris, but I think this is, I'm the sort of person that hates having to grocery shop. So I have, here in Croydon, they have a Waitrose, a very cool, I have to give props to Waitrose.
They've got a Waitrose in Croydon?
They've got Waitrose in Croydon. Amazing fact number one. And it's our main supermarket just outside the station. Amazing fact number two is, and this I found this out just as I was moving about a year ago, they have this scheme that they're trialling. I believe it's going to be rolled out to other areas if it hasn't been already, where they will come and install a Yale smart lock on your door, and they, as long as you're comfortable with this, they will come in, deliver your groceries, drop them off into the fridge and your freezer, and you don't even have to be here. So I feel like that's the future. I've spoken to a lot of people who are deeply uncomfortable, and I get why. About people just wandering around their house unattended. They do film the whole thing. I've never requested it, but you can request a video if you want to afterwards. I've actually been asleep. I've been working late and I've been asleep the morning after, and they've come in, delivered the groceries, and I've not even woken up, which is probably terrifying and probably shouldn't admit to, because now I'm going to get robbed. But I find that's a massive convenience saver, and anything that helps alleviate the friction of just going to the shops and having to queue up to get food and all the rest of it. I should say now I do use the Lidl in Croydon quite frequently. So
love a Lidl.
Love a Lidl.
Love it.
Shout out to the German guys over in Lidl. big shout out to those guys.
Love you guys.
But this story is about Amazon's Just Walk Out till-free technology is going to be offered to rivals. So right now, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber and you're in the US and you're in a city like San Francisco, I mean, it might be in other cities. I've been to San Francisco and seen this. it's you basically walk in, you scan your credit card so it can identify you, and you just pick stuff off the shelves and walk out the store.
Yeah.
And it uses camera technology and depth of field sensors to sense what you've picked up. It can ascertain whether you're just looking at an item or you put it in your basket. So you walk out the store and it understands what you've bought and bills you accordingly. So Amazon is going to start licensing that till-free technology to its rivals. So basically, apparently you can, if you're operating a store, you can install these cameras. It's a relatively simple thing to do. You don't crucially have to be an Amazon Prime subscriber. It can still work with any credit card, and then it will sense again you going around the store and buying your items. The slight difference is that these stores that they're doing in America tend to be your sort of smaller metro style stores. So for anyone, I'm sure Tesco Metros are everywhere, but if you haven't seen, they tend to be very common in cities. They're small, traditional, bigger supermarkets. They're massive, and Amazon's tech hasn't really been trialed in those, I don't know the square footage, but those massive supermarkets. So it's more for the smaller. You've been to work, you're a city worker, you're on your way home.
Get your Ginsters, your bottle of pop.
Exactly, your healthy meal, exactly. So what do you think about it? Do you think this is the future? Would you be apprehensive about doing this? Or
I mean, it sounds great from a convenience standpoint. Just literally walk in, grab what you want, bugger off again. I hate shopping, so I do all of my grocery shopping online. Get Tesco's to deliver it to my door, and then job done.
It's scary though, because you're a home worker, as I am a lot of the time as well. You can end up not leaving the house. That's the dream. That's the dream.
Not having to look at another human being in my day-to-day life. That's the dream. Loving it.
Well, I'm sorry to have made you come out for this podcast. So this, you may well see this being offered to rivals, whether rivals take it up or not, and then essentially getting Amazon's. I mean, if you're a retailer now, you're at the stage where you're going to have to work with Amazon probably in some way.
It's basically learn to live with them or be destroyed by them, probably, is your two options.
That's right. But yeah, I'd certainly really be interested in this type of technology. Perhaps for stores, and it's rare where I shop this, it's only if I'm cooking a Valentine's meal and I'm trying to impress. I go to Marks and Spencer's. I feel like Marks and Spencer's is the place to do this.
It's got to be the M&S. Because they a nice quiche.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or a meal kit or something. Marks and Spencer's do actually have this. My office in Clapham Junction. They have this beautiful new food store in Clapham Junction, and you can do it all. You can scan on the app, pay on the app, and then just walk out. But this is just the next level of that, where you just don't even
not even any scanning.
Just grab.
Exactly. Just in the bag.
For the retailers, that's the dream as well, because you have no. At least if you're going around again, just keep name dropping. We're not on a commercial. We're not on the BBC. We can name stores, but you go around Tesco and you scan it, you're like, oh, my shopping's at about 50 quid now. That's probably a lot,
Yeah,
especially for a single
back the 24 pack of Heineken or whatever.
Exactly, but if you're just grabbing indiscrimently, you're just like, oh my god, I just spent like 100 quid.
That's the you don't find out until you get the credit card bill.
So that's it for this week's news. Time to talk to my guest about what the tech is that they can't live without. We spoke a little bit about at the top of the show. You're using the Oppo phone, Chris, but what are your go-to? What are the things that you can't live without? I mean, you've mentioned your water bottle.
Yes, can we talk my Roku water bottle,
which is famous if you watch any of Chris's videos on YouTube.
Can I just point out, I'm not being paid by Roku, not a single dime. I literally went to a Roku event. They gave me this water bottle, and it manages to creep into a lot of my videos. That's not because I love Roku and they pay me vast amounts of money to say so. It's purely because I drink a lot of water and I'm too lazy to shift it out of frame.
They make good. I mean, that looks like a good water bottle, and they make good set-top boxes.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm assuming they just paid a company to blaze their name on it, but good water bottle. 10 out of 10.
So you travel your water bottle. You're trying. Can we talk about this? You're trying the intermittent fasting thing.
Yeah.
So we were out the other week. Someone gets a load of pretzels delivered to the table, and Chris is like,
we should name and shame. Alistair Stevenson from Trusted Reviews.
We'll try and get him on the podcast. He got some pretzels delivered. I was straight in on the pretzels, and you were like, no. I tried. Was it you trying to eat carbs?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. I've got that kind of annoying frame where if I put on any weight, I just bloat.
Right.
I get these massive love handles. I'm this skinny little runt, basically.
Right.
So I can't really put on muscle to sort of hide it. I just have to try not to put on weight. So yeah, this is basically I follow another good friend of ours, Basil, who used to do BTech, and now he kind of does a lot of freelance stuff. for various publications.
This is Basil Cronfley.
Basil Cronfley, our good mate. He recommends not eating anything until sort of midday time, and then sort of cramming all your meals into about sort of 7 or 8 hours, and cutting down on the carbs and all the sort of the usual shenanigans. So,
if you're not watching on the video, Chris does look very healthy. He's doing very, very, very well. And so whenever I've done it, whenever I've lost weight, it is because I don't eat things like pretzels, which have basically zero nutritional value.
I mean, we also then drank about 2 steins of beer.
Well, that's it.
With several follow-ups as well, so that probably didn't help on the carbs front or anything else.
But you need to have. I mean, you need to have some fun. I mean, if you're going to sit, if you're going to sit in a German beer hall and have gin and tonics, and
then something's gone seriously wrong. I doubt you'd even be able to get a gin and tonic, to be honest.
The thing I will say is there's a lot of, if you're having alcohol-free beers, I'm not a huge fan of the taste of them. At least, if anyone has any to recommend them, please get in touch.
Oh yeah.
But that's the problem is that there can be a social stigma attached to not drinking, and there shouldn't be. Like, if you don't want to drink,
100%,
don't, and it can help a lot with keeping weight off and just generally being healthy.
Just generally, yes.
But so you're intermittent fasting, and do you use any apps to kind of track that? That's no, because I've sometimes used MyFitnessPal to do that, which is, just because it's amazing. It's like anything else. It's boring, but it is amazing when you start to write down or track the amount of calories and stuff.
Yes.
Like, it's like, oh, that chocolate bar is 200 calories, and it's I have to run for 15 minutes to get that.
Yeah, you see, I don't do the running bit, so
right.
that would be absolutely not advantageous at all for me whatsoever. The most exercise I ever get is when I turn on my my Switch and I put on that Ring Fit.
Oh yeah, I use Ring Fit.
It's all right, At first I was like, oh, it's just gonna be like a kiddie workout, isn't it? But if you boost it up to the maximum level, you end up doing like 100 squat thrusts and like all these other things to just to beat like a crappy little devil-y demon thing. You get on the boss levels, I'm just on the floor, like gasping for breath, because that'd be squatting, jumping out, doing all this stuff. Yeah. It's like, it's actually a proper workout.
Nice. So what are the things that you can't live without? Is there anything that you always carry around with you?
Tech stuff, yeah. So whenever I'm out for events or anything like that, it's always noise cancelling headphones. 100%. Sure. I always make sure I've got at least 2 pairs in my bag just in case one runs out of batteries.
Wow. Right.
And I do review a lot of the True Wireless earbuds these days, because there's so many. I'm getting like requests from new brands I've never even heard of, like every single day to feature their stuff. And there's some really good ones. So the ones I'm the biggest fan of at the moment is the Creative Outlayer Golds. Okay. Which are they're sort of bullet style buds. They're about £70-80. Yeah. And they are like right up there in terms of quality, with easily past the Samsung Galaxy Buds, past the Apple AirPods and everything. They don't have proper noise cancellation in them, but they are very isolating, so you just bung them in there and it tends to block out stuff. And the quality is fantastic. And the battery life, you get about 10 to 12 hours of life before you have to stick them back in the case. So they will literally do you through a long haul flight, or like all day long, even if you never really sort of take them out.
And what do you know what they retail for?
Yeah, so it's around the £70 price point. I think their original RRP was around sort of 99-ish, but they're always on discount. Yeah. So if anyone's looking for a pair of True Wireless earbuds, 100% recommend those.
And they were the
Creative Outlayer Golds.
As in creative
creative sounds, creative labs.
Yeah. I hadn't actually used those. Yeah, you don't need to spend that, the sort of Apple money. I know a lot of people do for the looks.
The prestige,
Yeah. It's funny because they've kind of gone through that stage. I was reading an article, I think, on the FT about this. They've gone through that stage of having prestige, and it's just like they're kind of uniform now. They're just so common.
God, you see them everywhere. And I've even heard reports, I don't know if this is true, of children getting just a normal pair of wired white headphones, cutting off the wires. Oh yeah. So they look like AirPods and then chucking them in. So obviously you can't use them for anything, but they just want to look like they fit in, which is it kind of makes me want to blow my brains out. But
well, where we've come from when they were announced, being all the jokes about what they look like, to now them being kind of iconic. You've got to give Apple credit.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely know how to draw people in and sort of make something classic. I guess that's why they all kind of rested on their laurels. Like, they know they don't have to change up the iPhone. People will still buy it.
Sure.
They just want to know they've got an iPhone. And
that notch has got to be going though. Right? In September's launch.
The big fat mustache notch. Yeah, I love it.
What about so you said the wireless noise cancelling headphones? I mean, I said on last week's show, I feel a bit naked without them. I'm using the Sony's on this one. XM3s. I always forget. They've got Sony have overly complicated names.
The WH-X1000 Mark IIIs. Apparently the WH stands for wireless headphones.
Makes sense.
That's the easiest way to do it, yeah. And then 1000, then it's Mark IIIs.
Mark
is what the M3 stands for.
That's very. I should have thought that.
They taught me this.
You've had the briefing. Chris has been indoctrinated. So I've been using those, but I've been using the Bowers & Wilkins PX7s actually this week, and
nice.
I've left them at the office, but I will cover them more on next week's show. So yeah, I feel a bit naked without them. I'm obviously wearing some now, listening to us while we podcast, but certainly on the tube or travelling on public transport in general, I need them. I kind of feel naked without them. It's
definitely
strange.
just to cut out of it, and planes as well. Like you need them on planes because guaranteed always sat next to the really chatty couple or the baby, screaming baby and all that sort of cliched stuff. So it's good to cut through all that, and tubes and things like that as well. Perfect.
And what have you been working on, and what have you got coming up? Any events or anything?
So all the MWC stuff that never happened basically. Next week we've got Nokia. A week after we've got the Huawei launch, of course, and there should be a few other bits coming up as well.
So you mentioned Nokia at the top of the show last year. I remember covering it. Was it the 5 lenses on the back?
Yes, the Quint lens, I guess. Lens camera setup.
But as you were saying, the rest of the phone maybe wasn't that great. It was great if you were a photographer.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So you're hoping for a proper Nokia flagship.
And that's the thing. Like, and a couple of the sort of more budgety stuff, like the Nokia 7.1, 7.2 stuff. It's been a bit. It's not quite there. Like the performance hasn't been as good as a lot of the rivals, such as again from like Xiaomi, Realme. Do some great smartphones around that £200 price point. They generally get the performance right and solid battery life and everything. And I think if Nokia can just absolutely nail it on all fronts, then it could be really good. And of course they've got the James Bond tie-in.
That's right.
So there's going to be a lot of Nokia talk this year.
There's that's been delayed. We were talking about it on last week's show, which is kind of catastrophic, I suppose. So their phones are going to be in the latest.
They just their latest press release was Mr. Bond himself, Daniel Craig, will be rocking a Nokia in some shape or fashion. I don't know if it'll squirt acid in people's eyes or what you'll be able to do.
Don't want that phone. Was it because famously in the first one, what was the first one he did? Casino Royale. It was
classic.
All Sony stuff, wasn't it? It was kind of obnoxious. His Sony laptop, and I think.
Oh my god, all of the Sony. Yes, in fact I remember it was one of the last big laptops that they did. Wasn't
that's
it?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Great little devices.
It'll be Nokia this time.
Obviously, I don't know how much they're going to cram Nokia if he's going to be using the 3310 or
that's
anything
right.
like that. The banana phone or any of that stuff.
But
we'll see, I guess.
That's old school. And I suppose Nokia will be coming back in a way with the new Matrix film as well, because their sort of sliding film was very famous from that. I wonder if they'll be integrating into.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, obviously they've already
at the moment.
Yes, and they already obviously rebooted, I guess, the classic Matrix phone. For a fresh new generation. That's sort of terrifying that that's like 20 years old.
I know.
It's just wrong on so many levels.
But they seem very mad about it.
Yes. Definitely.
I don't know if they care that much.
That's the thing.
The Motorola, the Razr and the folding stuff that Motorola's doing, that seems to have more affection. I don't know, like in terms of the not a new generation, but it seems like maybe our generation remembers the original.
Oh yeah, like that Razr was a classic. That's one of the fundamental. Like if you list your top 5 most influential smartphones or phones in general throughout history, then
because it wasn't quite smart.
Wasn't quite a smartphone.
It had web browser on, I think.
Good old WAP and shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean that was when I think about 15 years ago I was on CNET. I remember using those phones just pre-iPhone, sort of 2004.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, before the whole thing exploded and nothing was the same again.
And so, anything sort of highlights from your channel? Obviously, the Oppo phones. Anything you recommend people watch? Go away and watch
everything. Every single
great
video.
Answer.
Basically, just start at number 1. I think I've got about 555 videos on there now.
Great content.
So just go from start to finish. You'll be all caught up, and then we can proceed from there.
On a serious note, though, do subscribe to Chris's channel. It's great. And what do you say? So hit subscribe. Ding the
notifications
bell.
That like button. Smash the like button. Hit the it's all about the notifications bell. You've got to ding that notifications bell.
I know.
All the good stuff.
A couple of things from my side. I've been working with Vodafone and have put Vodafone have put a couple of Lewis Hamilton interviews live that we did earlier this year. So flew drones with Lewis Hamilton.
Very nice.
And play some video games. Quite challenging because Lewis also has a commercial partnership with Sony PlayStation and so we couldn't talk more broadly about the fact that he has a PlayStation in his what they travel around in his bus. When he's traveling the world and he plays Call of Duty with his friends. But we did play with some pretty cool augmented reality stuff and flew some drones with some professional drone pilots. Assuming it goes ahead, I'm going to be giving a conference talk about how developers can better work with the press to get coverage for their game, and press and influencers and content creators. So that's going to be at Develop, which is in, I should know this, but I think it's June or July. So that's later this year. The slight caveat of that is everything's getting cancelled, so I'm slightly concerned about that. But we'll see how that
fingers crossed
all pans out. And yes, there's going to be an ASUS event later this week on the gaming front, so I'm going to go and check that out. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Guy Cocker for updates on all that sort of stuff. And as we mentioned earlier, you are at
Seebar UK, SEEBAR UK. I'm the bold northern guy swearing far too much on there.
That's about it for this week's episode. All that remains to say is thanks very much to Chris. Chris, one more time, you're on YouTube. Your channel is
YouTube
TechSpurt.
Yep.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome.
If you have any feedback, please send it to guy@guycocker.com or slide into my DMs on any of those channels.
On in there. Yeah.
Keep an eye on twitter.com/guycocker for updates on upcoming episodes. Next week, I'm going to be talking to Alex Todd. So we'll catch up with him, and subscribe in iTunes to have these episodes delivered as soon as they're available. And if you can, leave me a review or rating on iTunes. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Right. There we go.
Excellent.